Danny Boy just looked into a camera and said something that shook the culture.
And that's kind of hard to hear because, like, you'll hear talk about Suge. Damn, man, and you heard me talk about it. I am forced to say that is worse than Suge.
He claimed Snoop Dogg was worse than Suge Knight. And that's not a light statement, especially coming from someone who was actually there. But to really understand how we got here, you can't start with a chain. You have to start in 1994 with a 16-year-old kid from the Austin neighborhood of Chicago who somehow found himself signed to the most feared and powerful label hip-hop had ever seen. We're talking about Death Row Records in its prime. This wasn't just a record label. This was an empire. It was the West Coast's Iron Throne.
I put out a record with the independent company that I was with, and the record was doing.
Inside those walls, Dr. Dre was crafting seismic beats. Tupac Shakur was delivering verses that felt like prophecy. Snoop Dogg was the smooth-faced ambassador of an entire movement. And overseeing it all was Suge Knight, a figure as controversial as he was powerful.
I started moving up the charts, and out of nowhere, Snoop hit me.
Right in the middle of that storm stood Danny Boy, a teenage R&B singer with a voice so soulful it cut through all that chaos like sunlight through smoke. He wasn't just background noise, he was the emotional glue. His vocals helped define classics from Tupac's All Eyes on Me era, I Ain't Mad at Ya, Picture Me Rollin', Heaven Ain't Hard to Find.
This conversation to me when he hit me up is he didn't wait. It wasn't this person that put him with me or this person that put me with him.
Those weren't filler records. Those were cultural time capsules, songs that still echo at barbecues, family reunions, and late-night drives decades later. Danny Boy's voice is stitched into the fabric of them.
He gave me a contract, and the offer that he gave me was $10,000. He offered me $10,000.
But here's the part that rarely gets talked about. Despite contributing to albums that went diamond, despite living in the studio 8 to 12 hours a day, stacking unreleased projects, cutting record after record, Danny Boy never got a proper album rollout from Death Row.
At this time, my deal was going to end with them, and these people were going to give me, I asked them for $75,000 to sign my project again. And they agreed to give me.
When Tupac was killed in 1996 and Suge went to prison, the empire collapsed. And Danny Boy says he was left holding memories instead of money. Worse, the Death Row affiliation that once looked like a golden ticket became a scarlet letter. Other labels were hesitant. Meetings dried up. He was too tied to the brand to escape its shadow, but not protected enough to benefit from its power. Meanwhile, unreleased records produced by heavyweights like Babyface and DJ Quick sat locked in a vault that decades later would belong to Snoop Dogg. Fast forward to February 2022.
Well, I ain't with you like that anyway. Suge bought you around. I don't even know you.
Snoop Dogg acquires Death Row Records. For fans, it felt poetic, the former artist becoming the owner, a full circle moment, a redemption arc. For Danny Boy, it felt like hope, complicated hope.
So he offered me, he gave me this chain, I put it on, and I'm living in the middle of the hood. Nice spot, but I'm in the hood where it go down.
He wasn't asking for charity. He wasn't begging for favors. He just wanted someone to finally honor the work he had put in, someone to reopen the vault with the people who helped build it. Then, in 2023, something shifted. Danny Boy had independently released music that started gaining traction.
This ain't shit. This shit ain't worth shit.
One of his records reportedly climbed into the Billboard Top 10, a powerful comeback statement for an artist who'd been out of the spotlight for decades. That's when Snoop called. According to Danny Boy, the conversation felt spiritual. Snoop allegedly spoke about destiny, about God, about alignment, about how the universe had brought them back together. For a man who once felt sidelined, who had publicly come out as gay in 2016 and admitted he never felt fully accepted within the Death Row circle, that kind of affirmation meant something.
So not only did you f with me while I had going on, you kind of put me in danger. Because where I was living, a nigga would have thought this was worth something.
They reunited publicly, recorded together, dropped nostalgic records. Fans called it a comeback. The culture embraced it. But behind the scenes, Danny Boy says cracks were already forming. After Snoop's acquisition, parts of the Death Row catalog were pulled from streaming platforms. That move reportedly affected Danny Boy's royalties he depended on.
That he just wanted to look like, just like what he do with everybody else. I'm gonna pass out all.
Later, he accused Snoop of trying to pressure him into selling back his masters. Then came the contract. Danny claims he was offered $10,000 for 2 singles, but buried in the paperwork was a 7-year exclusivity clause. When his lawyer pushed back, tensions rose.
Hard to hear because, like, you'll hear a motherfucker talk about Suge. Damn, man, and you heard me talk about it. I am forced to say that is worse than Suge.
After revisions, Danny says his actual cut would only be $7,000 once producers were paid. For context, he says he had a $50,000 independent offer waiting. He chose Snoop based on trust. And then came the moment that would become symbolic of everything.
I mean, all bullshit aside, let the balloons down. Neck and room. There's nothing in the room. There's nothing but honesty.
During a music video shoot, Snoop removed a Death Row chain from his own neck and placed it on Danny Boy's. On camera, it looked legendary, an OG blessing, a passing of the torch. Danny Boy says he wore that chain proudly back in Chicago, not because of the diamonds, but because of what it represented: validation, acceptance, legacy. He even moved carefully, aware of how dangerous flashy jewelry can be in certain neighborhoods. Then he took it to a jeweler, and according to him, that's when the illusion shattered. He was allegedly told the chain wasn't diamond or gold, but costume jewelry, cubic zirconia, moissanite at best. To Danny Boy, it wasn't about material value, it was about symbolism. He felt the gesture was staged, performative, something meant to look powerful on camera, but hollow in reality. That's why this isn't just industry gossip. To Danny Boy, the fake chain represented something deeper: promises that didn't materialize, loyalty that didn't hold, nostalgia used as leverage.
Suge took care of his people. Suge took care of him. I don't know what their business was because I told you how I felt about my business, but he took care of us.
Whether Snoop will respond in detail remains to be seen, but one thing is undeniable. This isn't really about jewelry, it's about legacy. It's about artists who helped build empires but feel erased from the ownership era. And it's about how in hip-hop, sometimes the most valuable things aren't chains, contracts, or catalogs, it's respect. And once that feels fake, everything else starts to unravel. Nobody wanted it. Danny Boy said he even tried to auction the chain off, thinking maybe the Snoop Dogg association alone would give it resale value. Still no takers. That's when reality fully set in. The gesture that looked legendary on camera, the symbolic welcome back to Death Row moment, turned out to be hollow. And for Danny Boy, that realization didn't just bruise his ego, it shattered whatever trust was left in the relationship.
Passing out no motherfucking fake jewelry. Suge fed 500 to 600 single mothers on
But the chain was only the spark. The fire was already burning underneath. According to Danny Boy, he had lined up a $5 million international performance deal for Snoop Dogg. His commission would have been roughly $250,000, a life-changing payday. He says Snoop's team went silent. No follow-up, no paperwork, no deal. On top of that, Danny claims Snoop blocked him on Instagram after he started publicly tagging him about the unresolved issues. And what did Danny do? He tagged him again. From that point forward, Danny Boy stopped speaking carefully. He stopped protecting the brand, and he dropped a line that sent shockwaves through hip-hop.
There was little Death Row medallions, and them motherfuckers was little 10, 15 karat little chains.
He said Snoop Dogg is worse than Suge Knight. Now pause. Suge Knight is currently behind bars. His name is tied to intimidation, lawsuits, chaos, and some of the darkest chapters in rap history. And Danny Boy, who lived under Suge's roof at 16, who Suge legally became guardian of, looked into a camera and said Snoop is worse. That's not a casual statement. But Danny's reasoning wasn't about physical danger, it was about deception. In his view, Suge was aggressive, but he was upfront. If he gave you something, it was real. If he promised money, it hit your account before he took his cut. You knew what you were dealing with.
I can't wait for to hear some of them niggas that's sitting around waiting for Snoop to roll something off the table that they have. You meet him, he getting everybody these old fake-ass baddie chains.
Danny contrasted that with the chain situation. During the original Death Row Records era, he says Suge handed out real gold chains, 10 to 15 carats, even to single mothers at community events. Mother's Day giveaways feeding 500 to 600 families. Meanwhile, Danny claims Snoop handed him a flashy-looking chain that turned out to be costume jewelry. Let that comparison breathe. Real chains to strangers, fake chain to family. And Danny didn't stop there. He accused Snoop of passing out promo-style chains and death row merchandise, essentially turning artists into walking billboards without real ownership behind it. Then he touched on something deeper: loyalty to legendary death row vocalists Jewel. When legendary death row vocalist Jewel passed away, Danny says Snoop showed no meaningful support. According to him, there were no flowers, no public acknowledgement fitting for someone who contributed to the catalog Snoop now profits from.
A person like Jewel died, I bet you they didn't even go to the service. I bet you he didn't send a flower. He didn't send a flower to Jewel.
He also mentioned Lady of Rage, saying Day One artists should have been elevated into executive roles under the new regime, instead of being sidelined. And Danny isn't alone in voicing frustration. Since Snoop acquired Death Row in 2022, other former affiliates have spoken up. Daz Dillinger publicly accused Snoop of withholding royalties and mishandling business. Even Suge himself, speaking from prison, questioned the legitimacy of the acquisition.
I don't ever want to work with that nigga again. For nothing. Like, unless somebody like, oh, it's a big bag, Death Row going.
And claimed the brand's legacy was being diluted. Allegations have flown from multiple directions about masters, trademarks, royalties, and catalog control. So what has Snoop said? So far, nothing directly addressing Danny Boy's chain claims. No official statement, no detailed rebuttal, just silence. And that silence has become part of the narrative. Snoop's strategy has often been to let controversies trend, let memes burn themselves out, and move forward untouched.
Give me my shit. Let me have.
Whether that's smart business or calculated avoidance depends on who you ask. Online, the reaction split in two directions. Some mocked Danny Boy, the fake chain jokes exploded, comment sections filled with clown emojis and why pawn a gift takes. But others saw a pattern. They connected it to previous royalty disputes. They questioned whether the new death row era prioritizes branding over artists. They asked whether nostalgia is being monetized without honoring the people who built it. And here's the part that hits hardest. Despite everything, Danny Boy says he's not bitter. He says he's just done. Today, he works a weekday job at a funeral home. On weekends, he still sings. Because that voice, the same one that echoed across Tupac classics, is the one thing no contract, no chain, no executive can take away. He's not begging. He's demanding his masters back. The unreleased music still sitting in the death row vault. He's even said publicly that if the catalog isn't worth anything, he'll buy it back himself for $7. That's not anger. That's exhaustion mixed with resolve. He's been through the highest highs, recording with Tupac Shakur at his peak. He's seen the label collapse after 1996. He experienced what felt like a second chance under Snoop, only for it to allegedly dissolve into contracts, clauses, and cubic zirconia symbolism. Whether you believe Danny Boy is justified or think he's ungrateful, whether you see Snoop as a strategic mogul or something more calculating, one thing is undeniable. This isn't about a chain. It's about ownership. It's about respect. It's about artists who helped build an empire watching someone else own the throne. Because sometimes the most expensive-looking things turn out to be plastic, and sometimes the most valuable thing an artist ever had was their voice. And that's the one thing Danny Boy still owns.